All right, welcome back to Dietitians Who Lift. I'm Summer the Dietitian, and today we have with us Dietitian Steph Wagner, the bariatric food coach with like the cutest background branding ever. I really need to get something like that, I feel like. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to talk with you. I feel like we've been friends online for a little bit and like social media buddies, but we've never actually had a conversation. So I'm going to get to know you at the same time the audience is going to get to know you, and I think it'll be a great time. So introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, who you are, what's your intro bio?
For sure. Hey, I'm Steph Wagner, dietitian in Kansas City on the Kansas side. I could throw a rock to Missouri. And my professional background has been bariatric surgery since 2008. So I've worked for 3 different bariatric surgery programs, which is like 7 surgeons. But for the last 8 years, I've just done my own thing. So I've been in private practice, primarily with a membership website. So I've had like 8,000 members through the course of those years. I've learned a lot, both on the business side and like the counseling side, and learning about, patients in the early post-op and then like years and years later, and keeping up, as you know, with the growth of medication options and how that plays into our surgical patients that are maintaining obesity management in the later years. So I have a lot to say. I've been busy raising kids and building a business.
Yeah. So back in when you first started being a dietitian, did you start right into bariatrics or did you do some time in clinical or outpatient first?
I went right into bariatrics, which is like so funny because your internship director says the thing you think you're gonna like never do is the one you're going to do. And I remember my rotation in bariatrics was so boring. I was like, oh my gosh, they go over the same packet every hour. This is terrible. And then when I was looking for jobs, like you interview for every job available, right? So there was like kind of a neighboring bariatric clinic. I lived in Oklahoma City at the time. And in that interview, it pays to be honest because I was like, I'm going to be honest. In my internship, it wasn't actually something I was super interested in for these reasons. And they loved that because they were like, oh, well, we don't do that at all. This is why we're different. And so I think I got that job because I told them why
Yeah.
I didn't like it, and actually was a great fit because they were a really dynamic program and really were at the forefront of like obesity is not an issue of willpower. And I feel like my training in that particular setting really set me off for loving this patient population. And I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't have been honest in that interview.
Yeah, and how cool to start your career in a place that had that right culture, right? The right culture fit. Because I too I had an internship director that said, don't set your sights on one particular part of being a dietitian because you never know where your career might take you. You could end up in there's so many places for dietitians to go. And in my head, I always thought I was going to be a critical care ICU dietitian, right? And so I had all this hospital experience. I went into acute care and I was pretty good at the ICU acute care dietitian, but I realized what I actually liked was like the patients who could talk,
Totally.
right? And the coaching and the like support and then I did a little bit of like oncology, which had an outpatient component. And then I had there was a bariatric program where I got to do a little bit of outpatient. And I was like, I think I'm actually an outpatient dietitian. I just didn't want to admit it. In the beginning of my career, I was like very clinical focused. And actually, I think, now I've moved into this fully outpatient virtual work from home space and I'm like happier than ever. But those early years really set me up to appreciate
Totally.
this work because I learned so much about one, how healthcare works and how dietitianing and traditional healthcare settings work and how frustrating that can be and how underpaid and how difficult,
Undervalued. Yep.
undervalued. And then so now when you move into these places where it's like, no, there is this niche that needs you and wants you and appreciates your like new, different take on things. And I think that's where we're going on for better or for worse. I think traditional healthcare settings people are losing interest in seeking help from them and they're looking for people that they relate to and can connect to and that they can learn to trust and build a relationship with. And I feel like that's what you've done with your program. So tell me more about going from traditional healthcare bariatric center to having your own membership-based program. What was that
Yeah,
transition like? Do you remember how was it crazy? Was it
it's crazy.
fun? Like, tell me
Crazy. It's like whatever that saying is where like if you put a frog into a boiling pot of water, they'll jump right out. Right? Like, but if you like, do you know this phrase? You put the frog in the water and like slowly bring it to a boil. I'm like, that sounds really
tell
negative.
me you're a little bit Southern without telling me you're a little bit Southern.
Yeah, I was born in Kentucky. Yeah. So it's like if I knew what I was getting into, I probably would have been too terrified. So I never really set out to be a business owner. I would have been happy to just pull a paycheck. But I think where a lot of businesses are born is that you, for one, you're passionate about a thing. And for two, you see a problem that needs to be solved. And I loved that first job. I loved all the jobs, but like I saw that this was 2010, 2011. My books were over full, so I'm getting maybe 20 minutes at best with a patient,
Yeah.
maybe once a month at best, sometimes once a year if it was their annual follow-up. They're getting, follow-ups few and fewer, in
The further
between.
out they are. Yeah.
Yes. When they need more and more support.
Yes.
And you're getting 20 minutes. And at that point, it's like, well, now all I'm doing is I'm just gathering information from you. I'm doing an assessment. You're not getting any information from me. And at what point are they really just experience like judgment, right? Like you're just getting me a report card, right? There's no motivational interviewing. There's no problem solving. It's just like, let me get this in your chart. You need to go see your doctor. So out of that like frustration of like wanting to be more helpful, but not having the opportunity, I started putting what I was eating for dinner on my personal Facebook page because Facebook groups didn't work. Like this was like I to this day I have like friends that were like patients, which I'm sure is so right, which is
Same.
sure is like
From, like, my
so
early Instagram days, like, they followed me everywhere I've gone, and, like,
right.
they're like my daughter just turned 12, and I posted, like, a happy birthday of her from Wednesday, and I had people going, "My god, I have not known you since you were pregnant with her. Has it really been 12 years?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been posting
Because
my
they
mom
started following
forever."
you because like that
Right.
was the outlet we had. Because
It is.
patients were going online one way or the other. They were going to go online. And especially, I mean, in the bariatric space in 2010, there was one person that was blogging, which now she's highly involved in OAC. We love her. So she's the world according to Egg Face is Shelly.
Yeah, Shelly.
Yes.
Yeah,
She was like the go-to person.
yeah.
But otherwise, like there just wasn't
Wasn't
much.
anything.
There wasn't much. So I was like, I would do an assessment and I'd be like, I eat like this. I eat what I'm telling you to eat. I'm managing my body weight with proteins and fresh vegetables, and I have 20 minutes to make dinner. Follow me on Facebook. Here's this. Then I met a friend who was trying to lose some weight and he built websites. And I was like, let's swap. So my first website was like, let's make a deal. And I had a website built because he lost 30 pounds. And that's how it started. So then it turned into like, okay, well, I want to monetize this because I'm spending time on it. I'm like learning food photography. So I started selling meal plans for $5. And then actually, it was my husband had the idea to turn it into a membership model. So that was 2015. It was like $10 a month. You can
Way above
unlock.
your like, ahead of your time.
I know we're so innovative. Yeah, at the time it was like Pandora was the example of, well, what is a membership? Well, Pandora, like that's how you explained it. So that's how it all started. And then it just grew from there. And eventually I was able to go part time with my work in a clinic space and then part time online. And I mean, it all has taken a lot of time. And thankfully, I think it's a great thing that more and more dietitians have come online. There's more options. I like the space being flooded, but it's more competitive. So we all have to get more and more innovative. And we're competing against all the other noise out there. So
So
we
much
just got to do it
noise.
together.
So many people that are not evidence-based or, credentialed in any way, spouting, right? And they're all these sexy podcasts and like supplements and things like that. I know. It's so frustrating, but I think you've got something and I relate to it so much because it's similar to like what I have and like with Dr. Spencer and what we're trying to build with our program too is regardless of like how flashy or engaging or helpful we can be online, right? That we have a community, that you've built a community membership over the years,
Yes.
right? And somebody who had a great experience with you 5 years ago has a friend who's having trouble post op, is
Yeah.
going to refer them to you because they
Yeah.
trust you and they know you. And I think that the more we can all, as dietitians, lean into building community, not just with each other, but like with our patients, I think that that is the future of healthcare in general because so much of everything is going like AI
Hmm.
and clickbait and all of these like trendy things. Eventually, everything's going to be robots and nobody's going to trust anything
Right.
unless they know you and they believe you and they can either relate to you or you've helped them in the past, you have a track record of success.
Yeah.
Think that I think right now we have a lot of noise and we have a lot of competition online, but I think I'm hoping maybe it's wishful thinking, but I'm hoping it's more of like a flash in the pan and that they're not going to sustain it and that those of us who have been in this space for 20 years who have built a community are going to continue to have that community, and I'm really really hopeful for that.
With you. And I think it's also like there's research behind it too. The power of community, the power of support. Like we can study this, like the power of every time you add a support system and how much more impactful that is for, longevity and habit change. But also I think that the way of the future online is like even these micro communities,
Mhm.
right? Like a lot of my audience honestly is my as an older demographic, and we connect, and maybe it's my personality because I'm an old soul, but like our connection points are very different than like the maybe a different demographic or a different platform online. So I think that like that's the beauty of having more and more dietitians creating a thing online, because we're creating a lot of unique things. We bring a lot of unique pieces to the table. Just like you said, like your experience, your pathway to where you are today is what makes you who you are as an individual and as a provider. And you bring that into like your certain space. I think all those micro communities is what makes it really alive and vibrant, very different than a robot, AI. I mean, we do like in my community, we do these like monthly challenges, and they are as cheesy as it gets, and people love it. We do like bingo, bariatric bingo, where we do like a call of the day, and it'll be like, to drink your water, but like we cheese it up, and like my kids will be a part of
Gamify
it,
it,
and my kids
yeah.
will like roll the bingo ball and like announce the call of the day. I mean, it is so cheesy, but people love it. So I think it's just like that human element, or like we'll do a scavenger hunt, and it'll be like a photo scavenger hunt. So if you're like out on a walk, you take a picture of, something you saw, and like that engagement of bringing you into each other's world even though you're online. So yeah, I think to keep that human element, absolutely.
So tell me about your branding. Bariatric food coach. It's the cutest sign behind you. I saw your water bottle has it. How does a dietitian come about coming up with branding? Or like tell me about that journey because we really in our clinic that we just launched is Join Vineyard. We went through 50 different iterations of what can we call this thing? What's it going to look like? What's our color going to be? What's our font going to be? Like what's our mood and our theme? Like did you go through that with yours? Has it evolved over the years? Like have you had any crazy different names?
Yeah, yeah, I went through a big rebranding. My first business name was Food Coach Me, and even that, like, remember, so that friend that I swapped services for, I wanted to be my RDN Me, and he was like, "That's the dumbest name I've ever heard." And I was like, "But it's like my RD. I'm a dietitian." And he was like, "No one knows what an RD is." And we were at a Starbucks, and I was like, but like I was like sold on it. And so he walked around the Starbucks and went like and was like, "Do you know what an RD is?" And one person's like, "Research and development." Like nobody so nobody knew. And I was like, "All right, point made." And so I was like, "Well, let's go like food coach or whatever." So that was what was available instead of like a foodcoach.com. Was .me. So I was foodcoach.me for years. And that was because back then, like I still wasn't totally sure like if I was going to stick to bariatric. I was like maybe going to move around. And that was became pretty evident like, no, I need a niche. Like this is my specialty. Why am I trying to be like too much for too many people. But when you're starting a business, you're afraid to say no to anything, right? So I went through rebranding, but I think the biggest issue that you're up against is like you're also trying to think about SEO and keywords. So it's like, well, how do I keep the, especially for an online business, like the handles and the, you know, um, browsers, like how do I make this so that people recognize it? Like nobody was going to recognize RD, but in the bariatric world, like basically everything is bariatric. Like Kristen Willard is a really good friend of mine. She's bariatric meal prep. So we laugh because we're like, there's only so many ways to do bariatric. But even now, like really, my tagline is like bariatric and GLP-1 because like I can absolutely help you with GLP-1, but I'm still very much in the surgical space, but I'm not going to rebrand, bariatric is where I'm at. So all that to say yes. And then I read the book and then the colors and I had the Pinterest board. And yeah, I was like, I think I went through all the brands and thought, well, which one do I like the best so that I could figure out the color scheme? And I really liked LaCroix and the pop of colors. So that's where my designer went versus like, the soft, muted, natural colors.
Yeah. It has to match your personality and, like, the vibe that you're trying to
Yep.
get across. So let's talk a little bit about the transition because 'cause you've been in this bariatric space for a long time, right? And the past several years with this explosion of GLP-1 medications. In the bariatric dietitian world, what are you seeing in terms of, like, acceptance and ability of those bariatric dietitians to support people who are interested in GLP-1 medications? Are you seeing an uptick in interest in GLP-1s? Are there dietitians who are resistant to GLP-1s in the bariatric space? Like, what's the trend happening right now in the
It's a great
healthcare?
question. So I would say that maybe where my mind is going and like where who I'm thinking of, right? Like who do I even know? So I'm involved in the weight management practice group, as you are.
Mhm.
Um, of AND and ASMBS, which is the American Society of Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery. So that would be kind of like that's where I'm gauging it from. And in that space, people are pumped for more
Mhm.
options. They're very open to it. I would say also that bariatric surgery dietitians they've kind of got a step ahead of how to manage GLP-1 symptoms. So I feel like they're in terms of like a dietitian specializing in weight management, they're probably the least afraid of working with the patient with medications because they're like, oh, I've got this. I know how to manage nausea and getting in protein with low appetite and
Food
supplementation.
aversions
And yeah,
and preventing malnutrition and
right.
rapid weight loss, and, like, it's not scary,
It's not
right?
scary.
Yeah.
And a lot of surgical programs are trying to find out how to incorporate medication into their post-op because they do have post-op patients coming in managing weight reoccurrence. If it's a program that truly believes that obesity is a disease, a chronic ongoing disease to be managed for life, well, surgery is one treatment. It's not a one and done procedure. So medication is an option to continue managing the disease of obesity. So, in my experience, great programs are excited. They're not going to be resistant to that. So, I have not seen any sort of like resistance. Although, what I will say in 2012, 2013, when Contrave and Qsimia were kind of coming onto the stage. I think that was a time when we were like, I don't know. At the time, we really only had phentermine available. And I think there was much more of a stigma of like, people just need to get back on track,
Mhm.
So I think there were a lot that I think that was the time where we were trying to get past the idea of surgery needed to be a one and done. And I do think that we've moved beyond that.
Are we doing a good enough job, do you think, when we present options to patients? And I say we very globally because I'm sure you do a great job, and I'm like, I feel like I do, of making sure that people understand that, like, it's not medication or surgery or lifestyle and nutrition. It might be a combination. It might be that surgery is a better option for you than medication. That presenting all of these options because I'm seeing sometimes in at least the patient community online, I've seen some patients who say, like, gosh, had these medications been around, I'm not sure if I would have had my bariatric surgery. And that can be a tough conversation in session where, but like sometimes, like, no, that surgery was you're ruined. Why? You lost these 200 pounds. You got so much closer to a healthy body weight. Now, with these medications, you've prevented the regain and you've been able to lose 30 more. We can't say that had you started these medications 200 pounds ago, that they would have been as effective as your surgery. Like, surgery is still an option that people should consider, I think. And I've gotten some pushback from that. People are like, no, no, we don't need surgery anymore. We've got these amazing medications. I was like, I don't think that's true. I think that surgery is still very much an option. How do you approach that conversation with people?
Yeah, I feel very similar to you. I think that because of the big splash and the big growth of GLP-1s in particular right now, or the newer GLP-1s, because liraglutide as a GLP-1 did not have the same splash, but Wegovy, Zepbound, and many more in the pipeline of FDA trials. This is such an exciting time. But I also think that, like, yeah, it's going to cause some questioning of, like, well, do I want to undergo a major surgical operation? Right. But I do think that in time, it's going to, the things are going to kind of even out a little. The dust will kind of settle because, medication, depending on if pricing changes anytime, surgery may be the better financial choice depending on if you have no insurance helping you pay for medication and you're paying $500 out of pocket every month long term. So there's a financial consideration. Or, I mean, to date, a bypass will have an average, everybody's different, average percentage of weight loss that's still significant, more than medications. So depending on the patient, depending on the situation. So like you said, it's really just like we're treating a chronic condition. These are the treatment options, but everyone's treatment plan is very different. But I think the excitement of a medication, like who wouldn't want to start with a medication before they go to a surgery? I can't, who would blame you, right? So we're seeing some, you know, dips in numbers for surgeries, but we're still seeing a lot of patients have bariatric surgery. So it's not like it's eliminating bariatric surgery. And I don't think it ever will.
Think that I've had this conversation and I have like a chart in one of my presentations that I've given where I want to say like ruin wise, like what 40% from your starting weight, like 40% weight loss on average. Kind of depends.
It kind of depends on how they look at it because they'll say, like, are you
40% of
looking
your
at
excess
excess
weight.
body weight, total body weight? You got it.
I think
Exactly.
it's like total 40% of your total body weight, whereas like Zepbound and a really great experience with Zepbound averages like 26% of your body weight. So what I say to people is if you are in these categories of BMI, which we could
We
talk
don't
about
love,
BMI and
right?
all these things, but if you're in these categories of BMI like 45, 50, 55, 60, you may not be satisfied with just the 20% weight loss from Zepbound, even satisfied personally or even clinically. Like it might not be enough to truly meet your goals, and then surgery might be an option. But on the flip side, I've seen folks who Zepbound their way out of qualification for surgery,
Sure.
but then they're not yet at where
We're
they're
hoping to
like
be.
in this limbo, right? And
Yeah,
so I think we need to be mindful of prevent and then it's like, okay, we don't wanna encourage you to regain weight so that you qualify for surgery.
totally.
It's like this it can be really tricky. So I think it's just important for people to have their eyes open when it
Yeah. And it kind of is, I think the question is where, for the patient that's trying to make sense of all of this, where do they go, right? Like a primary care doctor may not be the one to go to, an obesity medicine doctor, probably a great person to go to, but more on the medical side. Surgeons, great, probably going to send you to, so it's like, it does feel like a time where you're really DIYing your care to figure out where do I go? So I think it's an interesting conversation to say, like, where is the right place to sort these things out? Like, where is obesity treatment where does that overlap happen where someone can really have the conversation between a surgical versus a medical route? So I don't know. I do think I'm hoping that our you were just at OMA, right? Our
It was
obesity medicine
great. Yeah.
doctors and our surgeons, hopefully those overlap works together in a way that they can help the patient seek which step is right for them.
I was really encouraged to see so many primary care doctors and family medicine specialists
I love that.
at OMA getting the obesity medicine kind of certification because and a lot of the presentations would be like, obesity is a disease of primary care. Like it is so interconnected to so many other conditions. If we're managing the blood pressure and we're managing the diabetes, we're managing the cholesterol, we should be managing the obesity because those things influence it all. So I was encouraged. I think in 5 to 10 years, that primary care doctor will be much more capable of having these very well-versed conversations around obesity. And I'm seeing, like, I'm really encouraged. I have some friends who are like in residency, going into primary care, going into family medicine, who are very excited about these medications and obesity management. So I think we're getting better. I feel bad for primary care doctors. I think they get a bad rap for like not managing these things very well. And it's like they also only have 15 minutes with you
Totally.
and they have 30 people on the schedule today.
Right.
And they're trying to figure out who needs a mammogram and who needs a colonoscopy and who needs a vaccine and who needs a prescription refill. And they're overworked and underpaid. And I think that's where we come back to this conversation about having subscription services where you get a specialist who really can look at you as a whole person. So tell me more about your programs that you have available in your subscription. Like, what does that look like? Who's
Yeah.
your ideal client? How do they sign up? How do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, so bariatricfoodcoach.com, I offer a lot of free resources just so people can get to know me. You know, if you sign up for an email and newsletter, you get recipes and blogs and videos, that kind of thing. And then as far as paid level, I have 3 tiers. A $9 recipe access gives them all the recipes, over 600 recipes. Again, they're suitable for bariatric or GLP-1 or just in general. It's lean proteins, fresh vegetables, but easy. I mean, I'm a working mother. I'm not spending a ton of time. And that it also includes our menu builder where you drag and drop, make sure, recipe list, that kind of thing. And then Premier Access is a $29 tier. And that is kind of my signature product, the one that I first created that adds all the courses, our community where we have the bingo activities and all that fun stuff, tons of handouts and resources and guides. So that's where all my time and energy goes. And then the third tier is guided access, and that adds some more one on one, touch point calls with me. And then I do some one on one coaching here and there, but that's where I spend most of my time and energy. So yeah, I've been working on some fun, like giveaways, like food clarity at every stage post-op, because again, I've been doing this so long that now I have members that have been with me since 2015. And that's a different conversation than the patient that is a month post-op. So serving my 1 month post-op patients and my 15-year post-ops it's fun, but it can be challenging too.
Sure. Because so much changes over those years. Okay. When you are working with other dietitians, I know you're involved in the weight management DPG and you are active on social media, kind of sharing your knowledge. What is one piece of advice that you would give to other dietitians, maybe interested in going into bariatrics or considering niching down to help people with bariatrics? What's like some advice or guidance that you would give to those dietitians so that we can be really great at helping this population? Like, what do we really need to know?
Man, that's a good question. I almost feel like if I'm putting on my hat of like to just get started and do something, I would say you already know something that somebody needs right now and don't overthink it. I think it's really easy because we almost like know too much, which is great. Like we love knowing, we love staying up to date. I love being part of weight management and ASMBS because I like get all the webinars and all the information. But the person on the other side of the computer, like they need like the basics. They need like, getting dinner on the table tonight. They need so I almost feel like when it comes to like whether you want to create a business or you want to just start something or you want to start an email list or you want to whatever, like you're probably making it too difficult. You could probably create like 15 resources right now off the top of your head that somebody needs. So anyway, I think that would be my tip, is that we tend to overthink and then we don't just get it out there. I would say
Yeah,
just start writing stuff down and get it out there. It'll
I
help
love
somebody.
that because I think too, patients, even patients or customers or even new dietitians, like, build up nutrition in our heads as, like, this super complicated thing that's so hard to get right, when, like, at the bare minimum, we just gotta feed ourselves and help people feed themselves, and so I talk with patients every day, right? And they come in with all of these questions about, like, types of fibers and like amino acid balance and which electrolyte supplement is the best, which one should I be using, or like what's the difference between whey protein and soy protein, like all these very niche, very specific questions. And I'm like, are you eating breakfast?
What's for dinner tonight?
Yeah. How many vegetables do you get in a day? Right? Like the details are there and technically they matter, but what matters more in most people's nutrition journeys are like the core basics. Like, do you have a routine? Do you have a plan? Are we getting some protein? Are we getting some vegetables? Are we moving? Well, what type of workout is the best type of workout? Does this count as strength training? I don't know. Do you like it? Are you willing to do it often enough and consistent enough that you'll stick with it? Like, we gotta stop giving people this expectation that they have to optimize everything when they really just gotta, like, do the
Yes.
basics
Yeah.
and do
Yeah.
it
One of
consistent.
my most popular live calls is a meal planning co-working session. All
We
we
do
do
those too, yes.
is log on and plan your meals. And 9 times out of 10, when I'm like, okay, who here is currently meal planning or has ever meal planned? Usually everyone's like, I've never meal planned. So it's like, I mean, and it's because they have this image of a color coded Pinterest perfect meal plan. And I'm like, okay, you pull out like a post-it note.
Yeah. I
That's
do
still
everything on
counts.
paper.
And right. That's your meal plan. We're gonna get started. Right. So we'll just start looking up a recipe, and I'll go a little further than that. Like, do you want it to be more paper based or digital based? Like, let's start there. How do we, so if you make a meal plan, like, hopefully you could use it again one day kind of thing. But those are the most popular live calls. And it has nothing to do with me really coaching you on much. It's just
Spend some
accountability
time
to
to do
log on
it.
and get it
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. I love that. Well, this was great. Thank you for talking with me
Thank
today. Is there
you.
anything that we didn't talk about that you wanna share or that you wanna make sure gets on the internet forever? Because part of the mission with this podcast is to platform dietitians who are doing the work, who are living the life, and are, doing so in a way that, like, really takes care of the patient and elevates our profession and shows people that nutrition is accessible and realistic and doable and that we see you and that we could support you.
Yeah.
Right, and so I just think there's so much noise, like you said earlier, out there on the internet that we're competing with. So I wanna give you a platform if you have anything else that you'd like to say, maybe remind us again how we can find you online.
Yeah. Anything else I would say, just like we're in it together. I think when I first went online as a dietitian, I was kind of scared of other dietitians, if I'm honest.
Me too.
And I felt like I was the only dietitian that like thought the things that I thought, and I think I held back a lot. So just remember that like it's great that if you do things differently than other people, and like, but we're still like in it together because we're up against so many other things that in general, like dietitians are going to, even if we have differing opinions, we're still united and bringing nutrition to the public. So I am an active member of the academy. I'm involved in advocacy. I'm here for all of that. I'll be speaking at Fancy this year. So if anyone
Yay!
can get to Nashville, come meet
Me too,
me.
I'll be there too, I'm excited.
Yes, let's hang
Yes,
out in person. So
for
I don't know if I have anything else to say on the internet except that dietitians are not scary. And I do think involvement makes that more true. Like, no, I have friends all over the country that I've never even met in person, but we were dietitians together.
So, right. Well, this was great. If you have those dietitian friends and they would like to come on the podcast, let us know. Join the Facebook group, Dietitians Who Lift. Anybody can schedule a time to meet with us. We post these episodes. I'm trying to post them every week. I need to work on that. But
We
thank
did it
you
this week.
so much for being here, and I'll see you around.
That's right. Bye.